Hey everyone, New12 here. Today I'm going to be doing my fucking character reevaluation. See who changed opinion-wise and who didn't. Starting off the bat, basically anyone who died in the first one, unless something happened character-wise with them earlier, they just assume they haven't fucking changed, because Cross, my opinion of him didn't change. He's still an asshole. Natsui fucking didn't change either. Yeah, Ava Hideyoshi didn't change. Kyrie Rudolph didn't see enough of him. Didn't change. So, it has its drawbacks for being the first ones to die. I just don't have much to say about him. Regardless, let's start with Kenzo. So we got a little bit more insight into it himself, and I'm starting to think he's more crazy than I actually first intended. Because he's weird as hell. Especially that whole last scene when he started, apologizing to her. And like saying he's sorry, I love you and all that stuff. And it really speaks to what I believe is going on with what Beatrice is. And I'll touch on that later and why I think that. But it really feeds to my point of, I really think she's just a ghost. Because she's dead. That's the whole point of reviving her. I think he just wants to atone. Maybe there's an accident or something that happened and he wants to bring her back. Some death that was preventable. And he wants to bring her back. Because he could have prevented said death. Until he's just been driven mad with trying to get her back. Other than that, he's crazy. He's one crazy son of a bitch. Jessica, we got a little bit of school life from her. Gotta see that she's pretty popular with everyone. Class president and all that, or school president, whatever it is. And we also gotta see some of her home life, just a bit. And we gotta see that, Natsu and Cross were pretty hard on her. Especially because, she has lower grades. And didn't really care about anything else she does in school. And all that matters is looking good. And not disgracing the family. Which, it sucks. But she's supposed to become the next head. So, they have some kind of point in doing that. Though, I want her to have more. I really hope next chapter we get to see even more development from her. We got a little bit, and I like the little development we've got so far. I hope we get some more. Because it's really interesting the way her character has been developing so far, at least in the way that it could be. I think it has a lot of potential, and I really hope it doesn't let down on that. Nanjo, still fucking suspicious of him, even though he died pretty early on. Well, fairly early on. He's just... Having him on your side is just too powerful not to want. Because he can just fake any of the deaths. He can tell them, yeah, they're dead, but they're not. And the only confirmed death we have was Kanon's, which is suspicious. It really is, and I will talk about that later. And it's just, I wouldn't trust not having him. And, he really fits nicely into why I think he's involved. I could just be looking at the stuff wrong or in a certain lens, but I think that it looks favorably towards him being an accomplice. Not necessarily the killer, but just an accomplice. George, we gotta see him actually propose to Shannon. Fucking Canon. Oh god, I want him to see him propose to Canon. That would be fucking hilarious. Just fucking switch everything. Oh, that would be fucking funny. I want to see what Kanon's reaction would be if, like, Jessica was trying to propose to him. Like, yeah, he'd pull the furniture bullshit, but I want to see what he'd do. Anyways, so we saw him propose to Shannon. And she actually accepted it this time, and they gotta live longer than fucking 2 seconds together. And so that was a really sweet scene. All of them, their death together. And just all the scenes they had together was really nice. We got to see their relationship bloom and all that. A bit slow for my taste. I wish it would go a little bit faster, but what can you do? I think that Their relationship will probably get more development. Probably not next episode, since they just had development. Probably in the 4th episode. 4th or 5th, I will predict that they get more development. Not the next one. We get Battler now, where he's a good main. He's a good protagonist. I like him. I don't like that he fucking just, you know, gave up to Beatrice at the end. I really don't like that. I know he doesn't want to suspect anyone, and that's a good character thing to have, but it just feels so bad. Ugh. I don't like it when he's like that. It's just terrible. I hope he doesn't do that ever again, because that's just ridiculous. He has to get over and realize that he's going to have to name some people. If he wants to narrow this shit down, he's going to have to start naming people. As much as he knows them, even though he doesn't really know a lot of them, or at least some of them, he doesn't know Goda that well, he doesn't know Kanon that well. I don't remember if he knew Nanjo that well or not. Regardless, there's some that he doesn't really know well, so I don't see why he's so defensive of even them. Than just saying, yeah, they seem really nice and don't seem like they could commit murder. That's what everyone says about every serial killer. Oh, they seem so nice. They seem like just a regular old person. I mean, it's just how it always is. So it's just frustrating they won't even consider it. Because I have a feeling he's just going to pound the idea that, oh, Beatrice is behind it. The 19th person. No magic, but it's the 19th person that's behind it. And it's just, it's kind of frustrating, to be honest. Because I just don't like that whole line of reasoning. And I'll go into it when I'm actually discussing my theories of what's going on. Because I'm also going to give myself limits of what I'm going to talk about and, you know, express and what I believe would happen. And those limits will be like, I will never suspect that there'll be a 19th person until it's proven that there's 19 people. You know, that kind of limits. Just to make it more interesting for myself, and it limits my scope to it. Because I'm going to limit the stuff that I know won't happen, so there's no point in even bringing it up or even discussing it from later on. And I'll keep adding to this and narrowing down it until it's one precise line of what I know is happening. Because I think that would be the best way for me to narrow down what's going on. Oh, Rosa. God, I was so happy to see some development for her. Ooh! God, that finale was the best. Oh, God. That was probably the coolest finale I've ever seen. And it was just, oh, it was so full of action, suspense. Great character development as well, even in that sense of, like, urgency. Music playing in the background, just phenomenal. Could not be any better. Well, besides that she dies. But, oh, it was just beautiful. And so, like, she just got so much development as well. From her relationship with Maria, and how she was treated as a sibling to everyone else, how they all look down on her, useless, stupid. It's really, really fucking depressing. And I hope it's not the last of the development we see, because she has so much more that can be expounded upon. And already she is just the top. She's just top tier right now. Just so well developed so far. More so than any other character, because we really get some complex motivations and complex feelings from her already. And it's only episode 2. So I really hope she doesn't take a backseat for the next few episodes. I'm sure she will for the next one, because it has to focus on someone else, of course. Wish it wouldn't. I hope I'm wrong on that one. So I'm sure she'll take a backseat. But I want to keep exploring the relationship with her daughter. Especially after, you know, she came to terms saying that, oh, Maria is her future. And how she was foolish for thinking otherwise. I think that's really sweet and adorable. And, God, there's just no denying she loves her daughter. I mean, someone who doesn't love her daughter wouldn't say that, oh, she is my future. That there is no point to this. And I think that's just such a great moment of growth for her. And the realization of that, it's just phenomenal. Then we also, of course, in tandem, get Maria's growth as a character as well. Or not necessarily growth, just more reasoning of what's going on behind the scenes. We don't get all of it, of course. I think it was more skewed towards Rosa being a bad character in this arc, but of course I'm going to spin it as to be she's good. Because there are a lot of times where she just showed that she was, you know, being beaten by Rosa. But of course there are also other, you know, lines where it shows that clearly Rosa does love her daughter. And it's just, I feel like it was trying to take a too hard line of a look of Rosa's terrible and there is no redeeming qualities to her. And I just think that's the wrong attitude to have. And like I've always been saying, it's a complex situation, complex answer. That you can't just label Rosa, bad parent, equals bad parent, terrible, irredeemable. I mean, I just think that is grossly an overstatement. I don't think you can come to that conclusion just by one event, 2 events, 3 events. I mean, it has to be a long, repeated pattern of behavior and showing that she is unfit and does not love her daughter to be qualified as that. And so, I think that oversimplifying it in that way is just wrong. Maria obviously doesn't deserve to be beaten every day. I don't think anyone would say that. If someone does say that, you have to really look at him and ask why. No child ever deserves to be beaten. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not an advocate for child abuse. Blah, blah, blah. All that good stuff. I don't want to come across as that way. I just want to look at a more... I'm going to give Rosa the benefit of the doubt. A high benefit of the doubt in this instance. And it'll take a lot to convince me otherwise. It really will. And I don't know if it can ever get to that point. Let's go with the best servant, Genji. Oh, God, I love Genji right now. Oh, I would have so traded George's in for Genji. Wow, he's the ultimate servant, honestly. He is just phenomenal and amazing. I mean, how can you not love Genji? He's just the fucking ultimate badass. I don't think he's involved in any way. I think he's an innocent guy. Because, fuck it, he's old. He doesn't give a fuck. Unless Kinzo tells him to kill someone, he's not going to. And I think that's really commendable. He's a good guy. I just think he's gotten screwed on this island. Mainly because Kinzo told him to be there. Other than that, if we didn't get to see too much growth, I don't think we really will. I think he won't really get expounded upon. Because there's really no need to it. This fucking badass butler is badass. That's all that needs to it. So I wouldn't mind some exposition on him, but I won't be mad if I don't get any either. I think he's fine the way he is. Shannon! We gotta see her and George's relationship increase and all that stuff. We gotta see her actually denying that she is furniture at some points as well. Talking about how she's becoming human, that, the ocean is blue, and it's not just gray. And I think that's great character growth from her. If only Kanon could do that. Though he did at the end, so I have to give him credit for that. Oh, jeez. I don't know what else to think about her, honestly. We gotta see that she really would do anything for love. Or at least George's love in this instance. Is she guilty of anything? There's a possibility of it, and I'll go into more detail. I mean, the whole thing with destroying the mirror, it's very odd that she would do that. I know that she just, is overly in love with him. It's a lot of questions. I think there's a lot of half questions out there that they're not full questions that have been asked yet. And that's the problem. There's still a lot of unknown about her. We just have very little information. We have her first name, and she's in love with George. And she's very quiet, and that's about it. Don't really have too much more to go on. I would like to learn more about her past. Hopefully we get it. Well, I kind of have to, because there's really not much about her. Hopefully all the servants get some sort of form of, growth. Because there's a lot of questions about all of them. I don't know what to think about her exactly. She's in this, nebula of... She could be bad, but she is good? I don't know. Kanon, the complete opposite. He is... Ooh, furniture boy. Though turned human at the very end. I have to commend him on that. He did show some good character growth near the end, of course. Wish he had shown that in the very beginning, because there's no point in not being like that in the very beginning either. I think that he's definitely the prime suspect. Him being named the only one to be killed in that room is just a very, very odd statement of the Red, because it's the only death that was confirmed with Red, saying Kanon was killed in this room. I think it's very, very odd that he would be the only one confirmed in that, while everyone else wasn't. Even though their stomachs were cut open, Nanjo and Kumasawa had their throats cut open, Kanon's the only one that had the one in red, saying he had been killed. And that could be just because, oh, his body disappeared and all that. That's the thing, though, because it's a lot of unanswered questions with that, and I don't think it will be answered because that's up to me to figure out those answers. Beautiful. I think that I have some answers for it of what might have happened. We'll have to see, though. I'll get into that more later, but he's definitely guilty. I think the whole son of your maidservant, hand servant, blah, 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 blah. I already gave my reason to why. That hasn't changed at all. I think that his whole lowering himself to Beatrice, it really sounded like his proclamation, I'll go fucking kill someone if you order me to. I think that's very telling of him, that he would do that. That's what I read into it, at least. I think he would kill people, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was behind all of it. He just seems like he just seems very shady, and he's keeping something secret. Goda, another suspicious character. I wasn't even suspicious of him going into this chapter. I kind of wrote him off as just being an asshole. He was kind of nice though at some points. It showed that he can be a good guy, but at the same time, he really upped his suspicion, like my suspicion of him. And it's just, it's very odd why his suspicion would go up. Because in those last 3 murders, in Natsui's room, one of them had to do it. One of them had to do it. I had to suspect one of those 3, George, Shannon, or Goto. At least one of them, if not 2. So, he automatically goes to a 33% chance. And it can go even higher once you start going into Jessica's room murder. Good Kumasawa and Nanjo's murder. That's when it starts going even higher, because he's able to kill all of these people. So, we'll see. So, Kumasawa. Beautiful. Oh, didn't actually learn much about her. I don't know if we will, though. Because she doesn't seem that much of an important character, honestly. I could be completely selling her short, but I just don't see her as that important. And I doubt that will actually... she'll become important. I just don't see it. Let's go to the witch side. Beatrice! The fucking golden witch. How I fucking hate her at times. I love the addition of the red truth, though. That is extremely helpful to me. And I think I can beat her with it. If she keeps giving me red truth and doesn't skimp out on him, I think I can beat her. Because can be extremely cocky at times and will probably give away too much information at once. Because she wants to be caught and beaten, but she doesn't think she can be. So, I need to fucking beat her. But we saw her up here. I have my own ideas of magic. I'll go over why I think all the magic is fake at the end of this character analysis and going into like when I talk about what's going on, because I have to explain how the magic that was shown actually wasn't magic. I have no proof of this. I'm just going to talk out of my ass and try to sound convincing so everyone believes me. We got Burn. We didn't learn much about her. She didn't fucking help at all. Jesus, I thought she was supposed to help us. Instead, she just sat there And Nipada at the very end. Thank you. I think that will get us through this. Ugh. I don't necessarily need her help. I just think I don't know. These characters we don't really get to see much of. We don't get much development on them because it's only in the tea parties that we get an exposition on them. Where she's been trapped in the human world, or at least when she was a human. So I assume when she was a human, she was basically Rika at that point. But this is like transcended Rika in a way into witch form. And with that, we go into Lambda Delta. Jesus. The mix of Takano and the laugh of Satoko. Ugh. Can be rough. And since she imprisoned Burn when she was a human, it would make sense that she would be the, well, I could guess you could call her game master in a way, of the Higurashi story. But she is the Witch of Certainty, who has lived for 1,000 years. She embodies the idea that hard workers are rewarded and is revered even by humans. Though she is a witch, she does not stray far from the concept of humans. For that reason, her power as one worshipped by humans is incalculable. However, she is fickle about whose efforts she chooses to reward, and in many cases she bestows her favor upon those who entertain her the most. Her immense, swift, and terrifying power can make any witch surrender in an instant. However, she is often reckless, and Burn was able to take full advantage of that. Which is very true. If you look into Takano's way, through her sheer willpower alone, was able to change fate and all that, and it definitely sounds like that's what she's going for, like the whole hard workers. Because she definitely worked hard for that. So I guess the witch was granting Takano what she wanted whenever she needed it. So instead of a god looking out for her, it's really just a fucking Lambda Delta witch looking after her until Burn beats her. Look at the 7 stakes. We got of Purgatory, Mammon, the 5th sister. She's very greedy. Often she decides she wants something, she will sacrifice anything and everything to get it. Didn't really learn much about him. Belphegor, 4th sister, reliable, sensible. She corrupts her master. Interesting. Beelzebub, 6th sister, true gourmet. She'd use any ingredients to make a good meal, even her own body. Leviathan, she's nothing but a crybaby who's jealous all the time. She'll do anything what it takes to get what she wants. 7th sister, Asmodeus. She wants a boyfriend. She'd give up anything for love. Lucifer, the oldest sister. Haughty, arrogant. However, she actually feels pleasure from submission. 3rd sister, Satan. She's very quick to anger. However, she actually just wants others to be angry at her. Whatever. So, we got all 7 sisters. Pride, envy. So, it seems like that's what they're going for. Wrath. Gluttony, sloth. All those good fucking 7 deadly sins is what they seem to be going for with the name of demons and devils over it. Just more stuff for me to fuck up and forget about. Oh, I don't know how they relate to the story, though we didn't learn much about them. We just know that they're advanced level furniture created by Beatrice. They can sometimes act by their own will, but they cannot disobey the orders of their master. They are quite powerful while in their human forms, but when they return to their true forms as the 7 stakes of Purgatory and fly at the enemy at high speeds, they display their true terrifying potential. Ginzo, a self-taught human sorcerer. His natural talent and level of knowledge are nothing special, but when his nearly insane powers of concentration and dedication were transformed into magical power, he awakened as a great sorcerer. His power is at least great enough that he was able to summon Beatrice and form a contract with her. Though his power is great, it is also extremely limited. He specializes in summoning and barriers, so perhaps it is fitting to call him a summoner. Kinji, fuck. Reading the first line. Ginzo's earliest furniture, which he created to serve him, and him alone with complete loyalty. Though he was Kinzo's first creation, he was made with help of a high-class demon, so while there were several defects in his initial specifications, he conceals a great potential within himself. In the many years following that, he continued to mature and compensate for his many deficiencies. turning himself into a nearly flawless butler furniture that he is now. He is approaching the limit of his service life, but the magical power he can unleash for an instant rivals Kinzo's. Shannon. Shannon is in the truest sense Kinzo's handmade furniture, which he created without borrowing the power of demons. Though there were a few problems with her initial specifications, she was given a very rare and precious thing, a heart. It seems that as a result of his long personal experience, Kinzo came to believe that the power created by the heart contains within it a strong magic. In the lengthy span of time following that, she began to mature, becoming exceptionally skilled with powers of a protection or repulsive nature, such as magical barriers. Because of this, in the realm of barriers alone, she possesses immense magician-class power. Kanon. So far, he is the last furniture created by Kinzo. Making use of all of his previous experience, Kinzo managed to implement a set of flawless specs. Kanon was also given a heart, but it was much weaker than Shannon's. Perhaps because Kinzo felt a sense of approaching personal danger related to his fortune as he neared the end of his life, he bestowed Kanon with the rare power to fight and protect. However, he hasn't yet matured very far and is unable to control his own power and speed. Well, what the fuck? I don't know what to think about all of this shit. Bullshit? Can I just call bullshit on that and just say that's not real? I don't think he can make people. Unless he fucking had them as children. I have yet to see, something happen that can, convince me that you can create people with magic. But who knows, maybe they'll show it in episode 3 and then I'll have to eat my words again. Battler, an unfortunate young man whom Beatrice has taken a liking to, a human who inherited the black blood from Kinzo. The massive resistance to magical power Kinzo was born with was passed on to Battler. Ironically, it was the trait that made it so hard for Kinzo to succeed as a magician. A massive defensive power against magic can be, even in itself, decisive in a battle against a witch. Kinzo has begun to lose this power with age, but young Battler's power is still on the rise. Perhaps it's understandable that Beatrice tried to crush it as soon as possible. Maria, a little magician who has inherited the black blood from Kinzo. Unlike Kinzo, she was gifted with talent and began to tread the path of the magician from a young age. However, her powers is still weak, and she hasn't yet graduated from an apprentice level. However, she is skilled with enchantments, which bestow magical power upon objects, and the magical items she creates are all master class. Interesting. Leave it on Kanon because he's my main suspect. Whew. Now let me, think about this for a little bit. Well, not think about it, but hold my thoughts together. Because I'm going to fucking disprove a lot of shit, or at least try to reason my way out of this. Before I begin, I'm going to before I give my theory and, how magic is all fake, I'm going to go ahead and limit myself to a few simple rules that I will forever keep, and, forever keep until the game forces me otherwise to not keep them. So, here it goes. I refuse to acknowledge a 19th person. I will never use a 19th person argument until it is proven otherwise. The reason I do this is because it is the same as admitting a witch is real. It is a catch-all, and it's a weak position to have. I think that it is stupid to also take this kind of position that it's just a 19th person. If you were trying to argue from a human side, it is foolish to just have that, because it's weak. It's a weak argument, because you can use, the devil's proof. Anyone that uses a devil's proof is weak, and that leads into my next proof. I will not use a devil's proof, because, like I said, it is a very weak argument. If the only reason I have to believe something is because it's not been proven otherwise, then scratch it off. I'm not going to use it. I will not use a devil's proof to reason my way into something, because it's weak logic and weak reasoning. I will also use no magic at all. I will refuse to use any magic at all. With that being said, of course, all these are subject to change. Thinking about it, I want to limit the suspects to as little as possible. So I'm not going to have useless suspects that I'm just suspecting. Like in my theory, I wanted to keep it. Ideally, it would be one. It's unlikely that it's one. It's most likely 2 or 3. So I will try to keep it to 2 or 3. When that becomes impossible to have 2 or 3, then I'll bump it up to 4. When it's impossible for 4, it'll go to 5. And so it'll keep going that way. I won't start with, like, say, there's 8 people that are involved in this. It's ridiculous to even take that position. Because it's just very unlikely. It's unlikely that 15 people are involved in this murder case. It's just like there's like 4 people that are innocent. It's foolish. I'm not going to use that kind of line of reasoning, so I'm going to try to keep it down as to 2, 3, 4 people. Maybe 4. I'll have that as maybe 4. These are, like, in my instance, like my rules that I will follow and abide by. Locked rooms, I will have to prove every single one, and it has to be a logical way to do it. So I can't just say, oh, like, I don't know, this person did it for no fucking reason at all. So that basically, in a sense, I can't just say someone killed this person for no other reason than just to kill that person. I have to give a reason of why I believe this person killed someone. I don't want to just throw out a reason of, yeah, it's possible, so thus it happened. Because, again, that kind of falls into the devil's proof argument. For right now, that's all I got for rules I will have. I'll think of more later as I go. Like I said, I will narrow these down and to have even more. But I think it would just be interesting to have these. With that being said, let's get into this actual story now. Oof, God. So, beginning with the very beginning, the first instance of, quote, magic. We get Beatrice changing the candy. The reason I do think this is fake is because it is pretty easy to fake a sleight of hand. You throw something up, you can because Maria had her eyes closed, so Maria didn't see it. The only person you have to convince is Rosa. I've already established that she might be crazy as well, so already her eyesight and what she comprehends is already a bit questionable, because I do believe she might have a split personality. Or maybe just psychotic. Which, it would be interesting to even have that character. Like a character that's that crazy. It would be very, very interesting. For me, at least. Anyways, moving on. So, just pulling a sleight of hand, I don't think it would be that hard to pull off. And I think that's how you explain that piece of magic, quote, magic. When you start getting into the other magic, it's a little harder. So, I will save that for later. When we get to it, I want to go through things in order. Beatrice, when she shows up, I think she is someone dressed up as her. Thus, the people it eliminates who is dressed up as her, it would be Maria, Kyrie, and Rosa. Those are the people that are eliminated from being able to dress up like her because they are the 3 people that met her and saw her. Other than that, the only other times we see it is one-on-one conversations. These one-on-one conversations could be faked. They never appeared in red. There's no proof that Kanon actually did kiss her feet. There's no proof Shannon served her food either. It could have easily been Natsuki dressed up as her. Could have been Ava dressed up as her. So I think there's... Shannon could have been dressed up as her. Kanon could have been dressed up as her. Kumasawa could have been dressed up as her. Fuck it. I'll throw the old lady in there. If Rosa hadn't been shown seeing her, I would have possibly believed that it could have been even Rosa dressed up as her, because her hairstyle, her hair color and style is cut similarly enough, and the color is pretty similar as well. So I mean, it could possibly work that way, but she met her and talked with her at least and got a letter from her, even though she never opened that letter. I want to know what's in that letter. So I think it's someone dressed up as Beatrice, acting like her. I don't think that, like I said, I don't believe there's a 19th person on this island. Thus, I think someone is dressed up as her. The reason I do believe that it's highly likely that someone was dressed up as her as well is because she never appeared in front of a large group of people. It was only one-on-one conversations a lot of the times with the servants. She didn't have a lot of one-on-one conversations with, say, Natsui and Kraus. She never met any of them. I was expecting her to appear in front of the dining hall, but she didn't. So it's very telling that it's possible, and possibly highly likely, one of those people inside that dining room was actually Beatrice. And dressing up as them, because they didn't show up. It would have been impossible to show up, because they would have been sitting at the table already. And it's not like you can go to the bathroom and then come back as Beatrice and act and not be suspicious as hell. So I think that is very telling. Actually, no, there was one other time they appeared in front of the group, which is the chapel. And that was all the siblings and their spouses together. So it still could have easily been Shannon as Beatrice if she dressed up as her. Or that fucking scene, I don't know if it even happened. That's the question. There's a lot of vague stuff. That chapel scene. Rosa was the only one to live through it, but the whole question is, how did they get into the chapel in the first place? Was it already unlocked? Which I do believe it was. And they all just happened to walk in there and then were killed. That would lean heavily that Rosa is indeed a suspect and is involved in this murder. I don't believe she is involved, though. And the reason why I don't believe she is involved is because the Natsui's room murder is one that she could not have physically committed. Unless you pull she left the room key out for the 19th person to kill them. That's the only, or for Genji to kill them. I don't think Genji did it. Thus, it would be that Rosa is, in that instance, exonerated from it. Because she wouldn't have been able to do it. So I think it's highly unlikely that she committed the chapel murders. Though, that being said, I'm not going to rule out the possibility of it. Because what I'm going to pull as well is, in the first episode, the faces were smashed. All of them. And you could only recognize them by the clothes they wore. This being said, there's a few people that were still murdered on the in the first day. And I think in this case, what I will do is go ahead and cross off every single person who died in both the first episode and the second episode. Because the second episode, I don't think there is a way to fucking fake your death by pulling your guts out. I think that's impossible. Thus, I believe Kraus is innocent, Rudolph is innocent, Kyrie is innocent, Goda is suspicious, Shannon, suspicious, Rosa, again, possible to do it. Those are the three people that theoretically could have faked their death. I do not believe Kraus, Kyrie, Rudolph did. So I can go ahead and eliminate those three people. Yeah, in an instance, I might as well just go ahead and execute them off, saying that these people most likely are not involved in any of these murders. I would say with a 99% chance of not being involved at all. And if you want to go through it and say that the people that could not fake their death, thus couldn't come out and do anything, it would be, Natsui, fucking Hideyoshi and Eva. That would leave quite a bit of less people involved. However, that being said, I do believe one person who died would be helping. Possibly. I don't... It's a big question. Because again, you need at least 2 or 3 people to be able to kill 6. That's a lot of people. So the question is whether the killer would be among that group. Or at least someone would be among that group. I know for a fact it wouldn't be Rudolph, Kyrie, or Kraus. So the only people that I would suspect as being part of that group would be Natsui, Eva, or Hideyoshi. Now, we had Natsui being the leader last episode. And in the case of where she was like in Rosa's spot, or Rosa's in her spot at this point. Feeling the need to take care of everyone. With this being said, she is suspicious in a way because there were some stuff that she did that were questionable. The whole finding the letter on the desk. She could have easily planted that letter there. I don't believe she probably did. It's very unlikely she did. I think that it was most likely an accomplice, being Nanjo or Maria. I don't think Maria is an accomplice necessarily, but I think that she's an unwitting accomplice. That she's helping Beatrice, or the killer, thinking she's helping Beatrice. I do believe Nanjo is a suspect and an accomplice. So I think I can rule out that Natsui is involved. I think the chances of her being involved are extremely unlikely. Then we got the bathroom murder, or the first episode murders for the second Twilight. I think the person was hiding under Ava's bed or in the closet, because they never checked. So I don't think Ava, as much as she's suspicious and a bitch, she's not probably involved at all. Hideyoshi? I don't feel as confident about it. He kind of seems shady at times, but I don't think he's involved. Or at least I don't think he's part of the plan, necessarily. I don't know. It's rough. He's a question. He's the question mark. If there was one person among the six that I would say would be helping the killer, it would be Hideyoshi. Before Ava. As much as that's weird. I don't think Ava's involved. I think it would be Hideyoshi before Ava. Because I could see him as maybe wanting this gold stuff and knowing that Ava probably wouldn't give him any. Or possibly wanting this headship stuff, knowing that Ava wouldn't give it up to him. Or at least have him share in it. But that's just what I believe. Going on to, I already solved the first locked room. I thought I've solved it pretty fast, and it was pretty simple. Because someone just has to open up that letter and reseal it later. So I think that's pretty easy. The people that were in that room would be Jessica, George, Battler, Maria. I don't believe Jessica is involved. So I can go ahead, execute her off. I don't believe Battler is involved. Maria, not involved. That would leave George as the most likely suspect of being able to help that. And being that he was also in the room with in the Natsui locked room, I believe that he is more than likely part of the plan. But I could be also wrong on that. But I will leave him as that, because he is not cleared in my eyes. It could have been a servant as well to do it, but I don't believe it was a servant. Going on to Jessica's locked room. We have Jessica and Kanon only being in that room. We have the red that says Kanon was killed in that room. Jessica's room key was in that room. I've already explained why I think it was another simply proven locked room, but I could probably give another reason of how I could believe it's locked, including Nanjo in this theory. When looking over Jessica's body, Nanjo found that key. They told Nanjo to go find said key. I do believe, if I'm remembering that correctly. I am, yes. That they told Nanjo, hey, go search your corpse. And because, you know, you're the doctor and all that, blah, 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 blah. He found the key, that it is in there. What he could have done is done a kind of trick of the hand, switch the key, and put it in there. When it really wouldn't have been in there. So he could be an accomplice. Oh, I can already fucking mark off Kenzo as well. Fucking, he's not. He's too big. He was locked up in his room the entire time. He's not involved. Let's go ahead and get him out of the way. Oh, and Beatrice, fucking not involved either. So, might as well change her outfit. So, that only leaves Nanjo, Rosa, Genji, Shannon, Kanon, Goda, Kumasawa, and George as potential suspects. I think I can narrow it down to 3 as well, because I am pretty close at getting it down. And this is just my reasoning alone. I will get into why I don't believe the magic aspect in Jessica's locked room. So I want to go ahead and bust open the lock room first. It never said whether Jessica's room key or the master room key was there locked first. That would have been key. Because if it said Jessica's room key was the last one to lock it, I would believe Rosa is involved. And then I can go ahead and cross off, like, Goda and Kumasawa and Genji and all of them. I'd say it would be Rosa, Nanjo, George. That would be my 3 people. I mean, I would already be solved at that point. However, that didn't happen, and it wasn't, so it's still vague. I do believe, I think it's more likely, a servant locked the door after killing Kanon and taking his body out. Thus, his body disappears, the room is locked, both keys still could be in there, or they could give, you know, the master key to Nanjo to go, you know, hand it off. Or, yeah, Nanjo kills, let's say Kanon kills Jessica, stabs her in the back because she's in the back, someone knows her. That's why she turned the back to her. The same reasoning Rosa gave. Most people don't turn their back on someone they don't really trust. She wouldn't turn her back on probably Goda, nor Kumasawa. Especially after her parents died, she probably wouldn't do that. Shannon, Kanon, she would. Genji, possibly. Probably not. George, it's a possibility she would. Nanjo, maybe. But it's the most likely for Kanon. That's why I believe Kanon stabbed her in the back. And then, for some reason, he was killed. I don't know who killed him. Could have been Goda. Could have been George. It could have been Nanjo. But it probably wasn't Shinji and Genji. Fucking combined them too. It probably wasn't Genji and Shannon. Because, like Rosa had claimed, they were in the study with Kenzo the entire time. I wish I could get a time frame of when this stuff happened. I really do. Because if I had the time frame of when they the second they walked into that room, I could get the time frame and mark it down and see when Kanon died. I wish I had that. I wish I had time of death. So that would make it so much easier. But again, makes it easier. Don't need it. So I already busted the locker room. There's multiple ways of having it broken. So I'd say it's already wide open and plenty enough for me to justify why it could be a human. Going into why I don't believe it's magic. It's basically the reason I have why all the magic is fake. It's because it's not experienced by someone who ends up living very long. If someone experienced, like, let's say, Rosa. Rosa saw it, let's see, she saw a fucking goat servant walking down the hallway after they just discovered the first Twilight. Let's say she saw him walking up and killing someone. And she ends up living through the entire day. The reason I think it's fake is because whenever the goat servants appear, or the 7 stakes appear, the person who sees these things happening dies very, very quickly afterwards. Kanon saw the stake, died. Saw the goat servant, died. 10 minutes, 20 minutes later. I don't know how long this altercation lasts. I would say 10 minutes max. Same with Jessica. She saw it, died very quickly afterwards. Nanjo Kumasawa, they died in the servant room. You can make the only argument against what I believe is, it's more of like your death hallucinations, or like your mind's playing tricks on you as you're about to die, trying to process and justify the situation of what's going on. The only reason it would be a knock against it would be in Goda's case, because he didn't necessarily die immediately afterwards when he saw this stuff happening. And I have yet to... I'll get to it and I'll try to explain it away as best I can. I don't have enough evidence against it to completely disprove it or completely prove it. And I don't want to use devil's proof, so it's more of in a nebula of I don't know. It's the one I can't prove. So going back to Jessica's room, another reason why I don't believe it is because nothing was broken. There was no chairs broken, nothing was disturbed. It was just the room, because no one made mention of it. If, let's say, Kanon was fucking jumping around the walls, and, you know, trying to stab the fucking goat guy, I think it would be pretty obvious that, hey, there's some stuff that's ruffled up. Well, unless you're gonna pull they magically didn't disrupt anything in the servant room and Natsui's room. The only thing that was disrupted was, like, the stuff they were pulling out the drawers. And the door was marked up. When it's safe to assume that probably would have been a little bit more. but let's say that it wasn't. But I just think it's very odd, especially since Kanon was also, fake Kanon, quote, was jumping around the walls or whatever. And, you know, doing all fucking weird shit. I think that would be pretty fairly obvious. That, you know, something's up with this room. There's a lot of fucking footprints on the wall. Especially since he was outside and, you know, it was fucking raining. There'd be mud on his shoes. Unless all the mud washed off. There's a lot of unlesses in there. But nothing was disrupted, and nothing that would be leave traces of why I would believe that the magic was anything other than just hallucinations. And justifications of why what's happening is happening. Whew, God. Fucking speaking a lot. So that's Jessica's room solved. We go into the servants' room, where Shannon, Fake Kanon, Goda, Kumasawa, Genji, and Nanjo are. All the servants are here. Well, except fucking Kanon. He's dead. Now, Kumasawa and Nanjo die. Kumasawa, I think it's reason enough to believe that she is innocent. I think she's just a helpless bystander and got caught up in it. I don't think she's involved. So that leaves, and I'm going to go ahead and mark off Genji, because I have reasons later of why I do believe he's innocent. So that leaves only fucking 6 people left of who I believe could commit all these crimes, or at least not necessarily commit all of them, but be part of this ring. So already I've reasoned it down to this many. Of course I'm overlooking things and, you know, not necessarily overlooking things, but I'm, you know, whittling stuff down. Fucking Fake Kanon. Why I believe Fake Kanon is fake is because the same things, except for the problem with Goda. And it's rough to kind of justify this because I don't have any proof of why he wouldn't be, except the fact that the room was still intact. It's the only thing I have going for me. But there would be no other reason for them to go to the room. So I'd have to believe it's some sort of hallucination. And I'm sure there'll be something that comes up later of it proves why they ended up going to that servant room. And the only thing I could imagine is that it's not necessarily a fake Kanon, but they found his corpse and thought he might be alive and ended up bringing him to the servant room and tried to, you know, fix him and revive him there. That's the only thing I can think of why they would bring him to the servant room. That being said, why did his body leave again? And why did Kumasawa's and Nanjo's bodies disappear and leave? Both were killed, so I have to explain why they were killed or how they were killed. I believe that there is 2 culprits in that room, that they could kill him instantaneously. That would also require Genji's passive, you know, agreement to. And the only 2 people that could have would have been, well, if not necessarily Genji's passive agreement, but it would be Genji, Shannon, or Goda. 2 of them had to have done it. So that's where it comes into an issue. At least me personally. Either 1 person did it or 2 people did it. And I already think George is possibly involved. I might cross him off, actually, just going through this. Nanjo, he might not be involved either, because he didn't... I'd have to reaffirm what I want to go for, and what the strongest evidence is for Jessica's room. I think the strongest thing would be that someone locked the room, and not necessarily that Nanjo pulled a sleight of hand on that. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go ahead and cross these guys off. I'm gonna go for it. I don't think George did it, because I'll go into it later. I don't think Nanjo did it, because just because the sleight of hand, I think it's just low enough possibility that he didn't do it. That leaves 4 people left. Whew, fuck. 4 people. Let's see if I can't narrow this down any better. Or theoretically with Genji. I don't think Genji's involved though, personally. So that would leave Shannon or Goda, or both, that killed Nanjo and Kumasawa. It's very odd, though, with the whole Genji thing. Because I don't know if he's just, you know, letting this shit happen. He might know who actually Beatrice is and is just letting this thing happen. Kind of like Kinzo would probably know who Beatrice was. Like, legitimately know who she was, like, who's dressing up as her. And is might letting it happen because, oh, the roulette, I don't want to get involved with it. If that's the case and he's just a helpless bystander, I think it would be easier for this to happen because it would be Shannon and Goda. They would just fucking kill both of them at the same time. But if it's one person, it would have to be either Shannon or Goda. I would probably say... It's a rough one. Not sure. But right now, I'll just say Shannon and Goda. For the sheer fact that it would probably be... Because it almost seemed, at least in the magic sense, it was two at the exact same time. And if the magic world reflects what's happening in the real world, I would say it's two people died at the same time. Due to sharp objects. Extremely sharp objects. Knives. Goda could have smuggled a kitchen knife in there. And, you know, slash both of their throats open. Like when they were going. They did mention that, you know, there was a butcher knife nearby. He could have used that to cut them open, throat-wise. Because it had to be a servant who locked the door and removed the bodies. Since no one was hiding in the room, a servant had, at least one or two of the servants, opened the door, took the bodies out, and locked it, and just lied. And with Shannon, Goda, and Genji, they all lied. And what happened. Or someone went to it afterwards. So it's more likely that two people are involved. Genji's just a bystander of it. So I think it's fair to say Shannon and Goda are involved. Though, maybe not Goda. I would say Shannon is involved. Because going into the third murders, I've already explained the goat people and all that. That people don't witness this stuff and live for long. This was no exception to that rule. The only things were disturbed were the bookshelf, or the shelves, and the door was scuffed up and marked up. Which I think the killer did that after killing the other two. I think it's more likely to be Shannon. Because stabbing George in the stomach would be pretty easy. Especially if she asked, oh, can you tell me I like you? No, you love me. And once he's about to say I love you, just stab him right in the gut. He wouldn't see it coming at all. Then the question of Goda or Shannon. Which one of them would have been more likely to commit the suicide? And with his chest stake wound and her head wound, she was sitting at the desk. That's the problem. And it's the one question I have. It's who's more likely to be involved. Goda or Shannon? Under the guise that Kanon was helping. Oh, I want to go ahead and bust open this closed room as well. So, since the door was locked, Rosa had all 5 keys. Natsui's room key was in that room. That's why I think someone locked it from the inside. Because there's no way to open the door, mark up the door, close the door, lock it. And there was no way for Rosa to leave the room at all. And I do believe that Genji is a bystander. Non-joke. We also don't get confirmation of these guys' deaths, which is really just fucking concerning. And I don't like it. The only one, Kanon. So, I don't think Rosa left the key anywhere for Nanjo to get because he was already dead. Genji, passive bystander. Thus why I don't think it was even possible for Rosa to open that door. Thus, this is what gets her out of that. I think that it was Natsui's room that really sealed the deal of why she couldn't have done that. I don't think she also left the note. I think that was her daughter Maria because she would never suspect her daughter of doing that. No matter what she believes, no matter what she says, I believe Maria left it and she wouldn't ever doubt Maria in doing that. So that leaves 3 people. I'm going to go back to the other 6 because I think the killer is in there. I really do. Kanon, I guarantee is the killer because the whole messages The messaging is just too honest of why I believe Kanon is involved. I think it's too obvious in that sense. And I probably will never step off of that idea, and especially with the idea of saying that he's killed. I think that's really telling of that he is involved. Because you wouldn't say, you know, just like a no-name killer. Like, Genji was killed. If he was the only one to be confirmed as killed, he would look a hell of a lot more suspicious. Because it's very, very odd to just just say one person died and no one else in the entire thing. So I think it's fair to assume he has something to do with it. He is guilty in some way. And I think he has the best chance of doing this as well. Goda or Shannon? That is the question. Which one of them is not involved? Which one is more willing to work with Kanon? We have the whole death of George, and Kanon was trying to convince Shannon to call off the engagement. I don't think that was the entire conversation they had, though. I think it went on for longer. Because here is why. He talked about how you guys are going to die the second Twilight. He ended up not dying the second Twilight. I think they made an agreement and said, hey, instead of us dying in the second Twilight, how about you guys die in the fucking second Twilight or something like that. She convinced him that she would kill George. And with that, you know, like, promise, he let it go and said, yeah, you okay, you guys won't die in the second Twilight again. I think that is what happened. Goda I don't think he has any reason to work with Kanon. He gains nothing with working with Kanon. He doesn't know him very well. He doesn't like Kanon very well. We don't see them having private conversations together. We see Shannon and Kanon having a lot of private conversations together. But we don't see Goda having a lot of private conversations with them. And I know I have already my 3. But I want to see if I can get it down to 2. See how low I can get this number. And still be possible to kill all these people. Though if it's like the 3 murderers in that one, 3 people helping in that room, that would be fucking funny. Though I don't want to have 4 people. 4 is pushing it in my mind. But my 4th would be George, if I had to pick. Goda, I don't know. I don't feel good about letting him go. I don't feel good about I don't feel good about picking him either. That's the problem. Because there's a lot of things he could have done. He could have easily just walked back there, or at least lie, and then just once, you know, Kanon kills Jessica, he walks in, kills him. Because they could have easily faked that story together. Because if they were working together, that would help. Because Kanon would have told him, hey, follow me, kill me after I kill her. And lock this room, and then leave. The problem is when I spin this around. Because fuck me. If you lock the door and leave the keys on him, and leave the key on Jessica, it gets rid of the idea that Kanon's the murderer, though he is already dead. So there is no point in leaving that key there. What you'd want to do would be to take the key away, and make them suspect Kanon. So that they're not actually looking for the servants, they're looking for Kanon. I think that would have been a much better plan. So it's very strange why he would be killed. And I can't think of a reason why, though. That's the problem. It just kind of loops in on itself and saying it's not the smartest move. And I think that's the whole point of this, that it's not ever going to use the smartest move possible. Because the smartest move is to obscure him and take that key as well. Even though it would be, you wouldn't have a locked room, it wouldn't be, you would just suspect Kanon more if that key was not there. And ideally what you'd want to do is suspect him if he was already dead, and it's been proven he is dead. If that red truth wasn't there, I would say they fake Kanon's death, and this would be solved. This would be done. This would be my 3 if he was not dead. Because go to lock that door once Kanon left, after killing Jessica, and that's the end of it. And everything else wraps up really, really nicely. Because then it wouldn't have been a fake Kanon, it would have been a real Kanon. Where they killed everyone in that room, walked out, or at least Kanon brought those bodies out. So then they locked the door and can actually honestly say, hey, the bodies left. And then Natsu's room murder, they kill George, kill themselves. Kanon marks up the door, they locked it from inside. And then it's over. That would be my line of reasoning if that red didn't exist. And it pisses me off that red exists. Because it doesn't make sense why they would kill him. Because getting rid of his body it just makes all the other servants look suspicious. And that's not what you'd want to do. Unless you're Rosa. Rosa would want to make all the other servants suspicious. But again, she would have taken, if she was working with Kanon, because I do believe Kanon's involved. Because this is still operating under the assumption Kanon is involved. Because if I got rid of that, then everything really falls apart. But I think it is safe to assume that Shannon and or Goda are involved. And theoretically, whoever isn't involved at that point, let's say it's just Shannon and Kanon that are working together. Let's go with that. Let's say Goda really didn't have anything to do with it, even though I think that's highly unlikely. Like, say Goda leaves in front of him, they take the bodies out. I don't know. I don't know what they could do. Probably convince Goda to go get something, and then the bodies were already moved and they locked the door. Something. They could probably convince him to leave. The question would be, who took Maria's letter? Because I don't think it was Shannon or Kanon that took the letter. I really don't. I think it was someone in that room, and I would have said George. But out of the 6 murders, I don't think 2 or 3 people could have done it. That weren't part of it. I think it was... I don't know. God, this is hard. Because I don't want to say Goda. I know for a fact that it's way more probable that Shannon is involved than Goda. I would say it's about a 2-to-1 favoring her. While Goda's odds are probably like 10-to-1 of him being involved. So fairly low. Shannon 2-to-1. It is very likely that she is involved in some way, in some shape or capacity. Hideyoshi is the most likely out of those 6. Nanjo, God, I want to suspect him as well. But I don't want to break my rule, because I don't need 4 people. I can do it with 3. But George was in that room with Maria. That's the fucking kicker. It really is. Because it's just so fucking suspicious. Because George was also in Natsui's room. And it's fucking suspicious. I'll go with George. I don't like it, but I'll go with George. He'll be my 3rd. I believe it's Shannon, Kanon, and George. And this is how I think the murders went down. Oh God, I will say Shannon dressed up as Beatrice, or Kanon. Fucking. I just want to imagine Kanon dressing up as Beatrice and faking it. Sure, why not? Fucking wears a wig, goes up, gives Maria the letter, gives Rosa the letter, goes up that staircase. Is spotted by Kyrie, escorted into the room. Then just one of the conversations between Shannon or Kanon with Beatrice is faked. Then, when we get into the actual murders, one of them had already unlocked the door previously, because this is the main reason of how Maria got that key, or in that envelope. It was already in the servant room, so one of the servants had to be involved. At least one. So Shannon and Kanon, dressing up as Beatrice, unlocked that church. They all came in, and at that point, they killed everyone. Well, I think they left. They didn't kill everyone while they were gathered in that room, because Rosa had to have left somehow without getting killed. So she probably left, and then everyone else died at that point. She might have stormed out, ran away beforehand, and thought it a dream when she woke up. But in essence, they killed all of them. George, I could see him having a deep-seated resentment towards Eva and Hideyoshi. I could definitely see that he hates his mother and Hideyoshi. He might act like he's not, but I could see him as being, like, extremely, like, repressed and just, like, emotionally and wanting to get revenge for it. I could see that happening. Or just because Shannon tells him to help him and he's like, okay, I'll help you. I could definitely see that as well. She could have told George that Ava was not going to approve and that told me that, you know, that Shannon's scum and all that shit. That would piss him off enough to probably kill her. That's believable there. I'll go with that. George then takes the key from the envelope. With the envelope, goes to the lock, locks it. Gives it to Shannon or Kanon to stamp it, seal it, gives it back to George. He goes back to the guest house, puts the envelope in, goes to sleep. Rosa then wakes up, gets the envelope, all that happens. Then moving on to the second murder into Jessica's room. Kanon kills him. And at that point, Genji, since he's a bystander, wouldn't probably care if Shannon went to go fucking kill Kanon at that point. I think it's a little fuzzy of what exactly happened there. I'm not going to have the most pristine question for that. Regardless, she ends up killing him. She locks the door after removing his body. Because it wasn't given of when exactly they walked in. And Kenta would fucking lie. He doesn't give a fuck. He's gonna tell Rosa the complete truth. Yeah, okay. So I think that being, all things being like that, I think it's very possible that Shannon would have been easily able to do it. Genji's not necessarily an accomplice. He's just a bystander and doesn't give a fuck of what happens. Moving on to the third room. After Kanon is dead, we have only the servant room where Kumasawa and Nanjo are killed. Let's say Goda is distracted by Genji at some point when Shannon kills both Kumasawa and Nanjo. And still distracted or something. Something happens in that room to where Goda doesn't realize that they were killed by Shannon. And at that point, kills both Kumasawa and Nanjo. Genji might, I wouldn't say help, but aids in some form Shannon in moving the bodies. It's more of just Shannon's behind everything. But it's really, I would say it's more Kanon's plan of how this would go down. Okay, never mind. I actually know why they left that key. Because it is, in a sense, to isolate the servants. So yeah, that would be part of the plan. Okay, I can understand what that is now. So going back to why Kanon's key would be on, master key would be on the body, it would be to suspect all the other servants, to isolate them away, put them into one area, so it's easier to kill people off, while at the same time suspecting others. And then, after that murder is completed, they move all the bodies, yada yada yada. Everyone investigates, because it had to be a servant that locked the door from the outside. The only ones available to do that would be Goda, Genji, or Shannon. And at that point, I don't think Genji's involved, and I also don't think Goda's involved, thus it had to be Shannon to do it. Then moving on to the next murders in Natsui's room. For some reason, I don't know why George would have volunteered. Maybe he was afraid that Goda might overpower her at some point. So he goes with her into Natsui's room. They, tear through a bunch of stuff. Make it look like something. I don't know why exactly. They might be looking for something, actually looking for something. Or they might seriously believe it is magic involved. Since Shannon did, it would be a reason for Shannon just to, try to convince them to go to somewhere else. Thus, they go to somewhere else, that being Natsui's room. And the only way for that to be locked would be from the inside. And so one person, at least, would have had to help in doing that. So let's say that they kill again Goda first. And then after that, they mark up the door, scuff it up a bunch. Shannon dies first or George dies first, the order doesn't really matter necessarily. The point being that they kind of fucking Romeo and Juliet. One of them killed the other and then ended up killing themselves. So I wouldn't necessarily say Romeo and Juliet. Or maybe they both killed themselves. Regardless, I think that is what happened. Of course, I don't have an explanation of like what happened at the end. I don't have an explanation of what happened in the very beginning or the first episode's end either, of how everyone ended up dying afterwards. But that right now is what I think happened in this episode. And I don't know. It might be right, it might be wrong. I'm gonna go with right. Hope it's right. I think I'm right, hopefully. I don't feel too good about the, necessarily some of the stuff, but I think that's about as good as I can get from right here. I need more information. I need to know what's going on and more red truths. I needed more people to be confirmed dead. There's too many possibilities of still someone being alive. I don't think any of the 6 could be alive, but I don't know. I don't fucking know. I think this is my final 3 though, of who's probably involved. It kind of explains the next episode, the first episode. Kind of. To some degree or less. George put the envelope there. Shannon was already dead, but she could have been faking it. Kanon. When did he die? Oh yeah, he got a stake to the chest. Could have been faked, probably. Don't know. Not sure. I still don't want to leave Nandro out there, though. I don't want to suspect 4 people, though. Because I think 4 is pushing it. I think that's too many. Because once we start getting into 4, it starts to get even more complicated. Because there's a lot more possibilities. Because it could be Nanjo or Goda. I would say their likelihood is about even at this point. So if I had a 4th, it would be probably Nanjo. 5th would be Goda. But that's what I have right now. I think it's impossible for Cross, Natsui, Ava, Rudolph, and Kyrie to be involved. Well, not necessarily impossible, but extremely, extremely unlikely. Extremely unlikely Jessica's involved. Extremely unlikely Maria is involved in any knowing, capacity. Same with Battler. Oh, no, Battler's the protagonist. He's not involved. Shouldn't be involved. I'd be pissed if he was. Though it would be very interesting if he was, too. Genzo's innocent. Genji, I think he's a bystander. Kumasawa's too old. And Rosa, I think it was the idea to set her up as the scapegoat. So it's really just a process of elimination, honestly. Of least suspicious to most suspicious. Oh god, Jesus. Anyways, I'm gonna fucking end it off here. Though I think there is one tip I can read. Golden Butterfly Brooch. The object arranges all fate variables in a favorable manner to form relationships between the sexes. This leads to nothing more than a favorable agreement of variables, so its strength differs widely depending on the individuals in question. Hence, of which bestowing such an item must make quite sure beforehand that the receiver will be able to use it effectively, or she risks being called a liar. The activation cost is enormous, so it's no more useful to the average person than an ordinary brooch. However, blind love is easily capable of paying this enormous price, and if the target of the receiver's affection feels affection in turn, the brooch's effect increases even more dramatically. Ironically, the more dramatic its effects become, the less one would need such a brooch in the first place. Interesting. Anyways, I'm gonna end it off here. My throat's killing me now. Oh, God. I'm talking for over a while. That's what I have right now. Fuck. That's why I have it logic down. I'm sure I overlooked a lot of stuff, and you can fucking yell at me in the comments for it, but This is what I think right now. It's going to change. Guarantee it. Guarantee it's going to change. This is a very, very early suspect list. If I wanted to expand it open, to leave more options open, I would leave Hideyoshi, Nanjo, and Goda open. If I were to expand it open to more. Those would be my next 3 most suspicious. Other than that, I find it very unlikely for anyone else to be involved. I find it unlikely, highly unlikely, that anyone else other than those other 3 would be involved. So I guess it's interchangeable with George, Nanjo, Hideyoshi, and Goda. I would say that those 3 are all interchangeable. Though George is slightly more suspicious just because of his relationship with Shannon. With that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my logic and reasoning. Fucking failed logic, probably. Ugh. I explained most of the magic that I can. I think I've explained it to enough to be fairly certain that it didn't happen, at least in my mind. I think I've explained myself well enough. If I need to go into more detail of why, I'll do that. But I think for the most part, I've explained why I personally don't believe magic is involved. All the locked rooms were possible by human doing, so there is no need for it. I can't explain the final scene. I can't explain the final scene in the first episode either, when everyone died as well. And it's just odd. Because I don't think there was fucking hundreds of goat people eating people. I don't think that happened. Though, I don't know how they died, though. Maybe the typhoon actually hit the island, and maybe it ends that way. So everyone is, like, absolutely pulverized by the typhoon. Or, like, a tree falls and hits them. I don't know. I don't know what. I'll have to think about that more. But either way, Rosa's fucking end scene was amazing. Have a great day. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for episode 3 that is coming out tomorrow. Because I guarantee that will be a lot of fun. It will probably involve Kyrie or Ava. I would say that would be the main heroine. We already had a Natsui, we already had a Rosa. I guarantee you she won't have that much of a spotlight. I'm wrong against that. So it'll probably be Ava or Kyrie. I hope it's Kyrie personally. I want to learn more about her. Just life. I just want to learn more about her. She's fucking interesting as shit. Ava would be interesting, I guess, but I just don't want to hear her fucking bitch and complain a lot. And I think she will. Whenever she gets her time to shine. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.